What's up, everyone? My name is Liam, and welcome to the Full Circle podcast. Today, I am joined with Keon,
Hello,
who's a
hello.
music producer. And I'm trying to think, where are you resonated out of?
Yeah, my man. So I first off, I appreciate you for having me on. I really, really do, and I'm super excited to chat it up with you today. I'm based in Orlando, Florida. I am a Florida man for sure. So down here in the tropics.
Dude, I haven't been to Florida in like 4 years, but every time I go, it's a blast.
You're like, where are you based out of?
I'm in St. Louis,
Okay.
Missouri.
Okay, that's what's
I'm
up.
far away. I'm far away,
Yeah.
bro.
Hey man, it's like you're in the Midwest part. My wife's from Indiana, so she's part of that Midwest crew too.
Yeah, I mean, all the people I've been engaging with lately are all in Houston, and I'm just like, dude, come on. I want someone closer to here, dude. I want to make some friends.
Yeah, everybody's just branched out all over. Have you had anybody on that's been from like St. Louis area or anything, or
No,
everyone's
I have
been
not. I haven't been able to get anybody because just the scene around here just isn't the greatest. It's not the biggest, in my opinion. There's a
yeah,
lot of like big production stuff going on out here in like the city and everything, but
right.
I don't really have the connections to get a hold of those people.
It's Florida is like kind of like that too, man. Like Florida, people think like if you go like down south, like go towards like Miami way,
Mhm.
Miami, of course, like there that's where like a lot of big people are, and like there's people popping off in all the cities, but like Orlando in itself is a very kind of just weird music market. Like definitely for sure. Like most of the artists and bands I work with are like out of state. Not too many.
That's
I have like some
crazy.
like local like some rappers and everything from Florida that I work with and um just like a couple like different like not many bands though. All the bands I work with are definitely out of state, but Florida in itself is an interesting music market to navigate. The South Florida scene though is huge, huge, huge. Of course, you know, like you got a bunch of big rappers who have popped off, so everybody in South Florida is a rapper now.
Interesting. I didn't know that Florida was such a rap scene. I
Big.
didn't imagine that. I knew they had a music scene, but I'd imagine it would have gone more to like the techno EDM kind of side of things, just because of the way like parties and stuff typically go out there in my experience.
Right. Orlando, the EDM scene in Orlando is big. So my old project before, like I went solo dolo and been like a like an industry producer and industry mixer. I went as business casual. I was in a duo and we were a bass duo. So for a couple years we were playing shows and everything, did some like smaller festivals. And we were putting out like so like mainly on bass labels. So like the EDM scene here, man, like you said, it's big. It's big for sure, but like the rest of the state, like you get guys like, do you know who Rod Wave is by chance?
Yes. Oh my God. I don't know why he has such a big community in St. Louis for some reason. Like every person I
Really?
talk to would just like Rod Wave all the way. Like it's
He's
crazy.
from Tampa way. Like, so he's from like Tampa. So I think he still lives there. I'm not sure. But like, he's probably one of the only like Tampa guys I feel like that have been blown up. I can't really like, there's like, don't get me wrong though. Like, Orlando has some like really, really good, like underground hip hop for sure. Like, really
Mhm.
good. But it's still weird. If I'm being honest, the Florida market is when you meet people who are serious about their music and serious about their art and their craft, you kind of find each other and you start to click. Like you'll find each other like really quick, but there's also so many people who which there's nothing wrong with that, like the hobbyist style like side of it, like especially being an artist. Um, but it's a lot more people faking it, if I'm being real, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
So
That makes sense.
yeah. So then it's hard to navigate, especially like being a producer and engineer and like this is my livelihood. So whenever you're like networking with these people and everything, people always front a lot and stuff. So you start to really learn to navigate the industry a little bit better and it, like and just kind of what's the best way of saying it? Like kind of like your people sense start to get
Mhm.
better. Because at the end of the day, like I always tell people, it's the music business. Like business comes before the creative side of it, unfortunately, especially in this day and age, like the way with social media is. So you start to learn to navigate the industry and like your people skill a lot better.
That makes a lot of more sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've experienced that too, networking for podcast guests and stuff. it's interesting because you learn when people just have a front for themselves, and then it's like if you don't
Right.
answer directly how they want, it's like they're just kind of like fuck you, get out of my face kind of thing.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
if you find, or you run into someone with passion and then they get really excited and they really want to be a part of it, and it's like then you hop on there and it's just like one, two, three, and you're just vibing.
Right. And I'm sure, dude, I can only imagine like just how much shit you probably have to go through to finding artists and like creatives and everything for the podcast. I can only imagine the ups and downs that you have to
Mhm.
go through too.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easier when you've made a lot of really good friends in the process of trying to do a podcast. Because I've this is my I my first run with this was like 2 years ago,
Right.
and I took it all down because it was just not working. And all the friends I had made from it and it stuck. I mean, they're the ones who actually encouraged me to get back into it because it's like
Oh yeah.
they're like the passion and happiness and euphoria I'd experienced from going through all this and meeting and networking. They're just like, I've never seen it since then. And they're just like, do it. And then I've had like a good group of like me and like two or three other people, and they just help me outsource artists and pull some strings themselves to get me some people. And not everybody's a yes, but I'd
Right.
say the success rate was a lot better than what it was.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, like kind of just planting as many seeds as you could, right? Just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the
And
best
then
way to do it.
hopefully maybe even just like planting that seed in the back of their head knowing you're there. And then what if I don't get an episode with you like now, and then what if in a year, you know I'm
Right.
still chatting with you, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, you want to do it? And then heck, I've seen that happen, that
Right.
then all of a sudden people really want to get on there with you that didn't want to before, and then it's like cool.
So it kind of helps plan out the future as well.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. That's good though, man. That's good. You always kind of want to, if it's not going to be in the moment, at least it's being planted for the future, you know? That's kind of the
Exactly.
same way I've kind of thought of it, like even as the like years before, just like chipping away, like trying to work with more artists, trying to mix more like people's tracks or band tracks and everything. It was just planting as many as way, but like it's kind of cliche in like music, I feel like, because you always hear the saying that like, oh, one person helps you get to three people, and then three people kind of help you get to like 12. It works like that, but in more of a sense of from my experience, kind of like jumping back to what we were just talking about with like you start to kind of navigate and learn people a little bit better. It's like you meet one person that introduces you to three, but none like you'll get one out of those three who's like actually like legit and not talk, who introduce you to like two, and then one out of those two that introduce you to is like semi-serious, and then it leads into more.
Exactly. Like that's the one thing I've noticed. It's like, yeah, word of mouth is the best thing because I mean how I usually get in touch with bigger guests is I really get into their fan communities and stuff and
Oh,
kind of
that's smart.
explore that world. I'm not like I don't mean to do it as like a manipulation tactic, but more of
Right,
just
right.
like make my way into their community so that maybe they find me, and then when I reach out, they're just like, "Oh, I've heard about you," kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
it's like, I guess you could say a little bit more of a comforting thing for them because they've
Right.
seen how I've interacted with their fan base and stuff.
So true. And that's the thing is like even with as much money as you can put into like ad spend and marketing and everything, nothing will like ever hold down as tight as like word of mouth, always.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one marketing tactic I think I've always it's an unconscious marketing tactic
Hmm.
that I mean was nailed into me pretty early on in this, and it was just, you know, if you're advertising everything, that's one thing. But then if you're advertising and spreading word by saying it to one person and then one person spreads it to another person, and it's like if you start that word of mouth chain, then even helps the Instagram algorithm at times too, or
True.
whatever social media. It's like, oh, they see like I'm interacting with one person, and then my stuff gets interacted to like five more people, and then like two of those five people interact with more people,
Right.
and then it's just then the algorithm kind of spreads a little bit. I've kind of noticed, and it's kind of weird that Instagram and social media platforms like that actually keep track of that kind of stuff too. They don't tell you, but it's like
Which I don't know how
they keep
they
track of
do
it.
it. Oh yeah, 100%. Every little detail they have like logged.
It's crazy though. It's just overwhelming at times. It's like, I don't know.
It is. It like I always say like this day and age is the best time ever for whatever you want to do in life, you know, like there's so many
Mhm.
opportunities or if like there's so many different platforms for us to share our craft, do music, podcasting, whatever it is. But at the same time, it's also like so scary because I feel like even like from a producer and like mixer,
Yeah.
like how do I like separate myself from the other people who are doing it? Like how do I kind of bring my flavor and my taste? And it's cliche, but I think it's kind of true. It's kind of people are gonna buy into you.
Mhm.
You know, people are gonna buy into who you are and like what you do. It's literally like you are your brand, you know? Like you are your brand. Like even if you slap the logo on it, the person behind it's still gonna be the person that everybody, your fans, your followers are gonna be investing into.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always noticed that. Like, no matter how much you try to like, do anything, it's you or your brand,
Hmm.
especially if you're doing a podcast or music producing or anything in the industry in that regard. It's you are marketing yourself. And that is one thing I think I came into acceptance very, very quickly was that I need to, for one, watch what I say and how I say certain things and like what I who and what I interact with. And then just make my image and brand known to people and just be the person you see right here. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. I have a question for you, my man. Like, so
Sure.
were you always kind of like a fan of music or like did you kind of like what made you kind of get into podcasting? Was it like you just kind of wanted to share like the your love of music and everything or kind of what was your
So
direction?
for me, a lot of the passion came from my love for music. And actually, music production was one of the things that kind of
Oh
enticed
yeah.
me to the industry. Now, given I was never good at it, I've made a few really, really shitty 1 minute tracks. You know what I mean?
Hey, we all
It all
have, bro.
starts somewhere.
I could show you my hard drive, bro, from years ago even to now. And I'm telling you, there's 100%, at least like 40%, fuck yeah, 60% dog shit that will never see the light of day.
Yeah. And I mean, now I think when I came back into it, I kind of came into it more of like still wanting to express my love and passion for music. And I think I came at it with more of a perspective of I want to network and meet as many people as possible.
Right.
And I kind of solidified in my head that I want to do work in the music industry and like tour crews and all that kind of stuff and be a roadie and all that. And that's
That's
kind
what's
of
up.
that's what I really want to do. So I think that was more my drive to get back into this is not only friends encouraging me to see like the brighter side of me come back out,
Mhm.
but also just in hopes that I can network with enough people that one day I could make one of my dreams come true.
Hell yeah, man. I think you definitely will. I think you definitely will. I've seen your other stuff too, and you got it in you, brother, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, whenever I'm actually tasked with something, like just saying, no matter what personal values I have off, off the record, if I'm being paid and I'm being, brought along for something like that, like I'm gonna give it my 500% effort. Like
Right.
if even if I drive myself into the ground on 4 hours of sleep every day, it's like I'm living the dream to a degree, and that's all I ever want.
That's it, man. That's it. And everything has sacrifice. Every single thing has sacrifice, whether it's time or money. And sometimes, like, your time is way more valuable than money, but it all comes down to if you get to live your dream, no matter what it is, you know, it's
Mm.
it's definitely worth it to just kind of nut up and just get the work done. Because everything, I'm a big believer, everything does fall in line. Everything falls in line. Everything you just keep putting in the work or even when that damn voice in the back of your head, you know, just
Yeah,
won't shut up. It's hard. We all have that, even the most confident people in the world. You just gotta
definitely.
learn to tell your subconscious to chill out and take a back seat and everything falls in line. I'm a big believer in that for everybody, for sure.
For sure, man. I completely agree. I completely agree with that mindset too. I mean, I've surrounded myself with a few other people personally in St. Louis that have that same kind of mindset that everything will fall in place if you put the work in kind of
Mhm.
thing. And that's grown to be a mindset that I have, that if the money and all the other smaller things don't fall into place, it's like it's about the experience, about the people you meet, and that's at
Right.
the end of the day, one day that maybe you meet 1,000 people, and maybe 4 or 5 of those people are the reason that you end up living your dream.
True. Very, very true. And it
Now, I
doesn't
want to
sometimes,
ask you
yeah,
though.
man.
I want to ask you a quick question though. Is what made you want to get into music production? What made you want to
Oof.
do what you want to do?
So So growing up, so like kind of like my background and everything, growing up,
Mhm.
my older brother used to listen to a bunch of like electronic music. So like old school, like DJ Tiesto and like Paul Oakenfold, like Armin van Buuren. Like I grew up on that. And then also I'm a weird mix. I'm half Persian and half Jamaican.
Okay.
So so like I'm a mutt. 100%, bro. And like growing up, like it was such like so diverse, like especially with having like Iranian music, but then also I grew up on a lot of jazz and reggae from like my mom's side, because my mom's side is the Jamaican side of the family.
Mhm.
And kind of just always grew up around music. And then I really, when I like from a young age, I was really, really into electronic music. And like around like 13, 14, I remember like kind of seeing these guys on stage, like DJing. I'm like, man, that's the fucking shit, man. That's the shit. And I wanted to
Yeah.
learn how to DJ. So before like any producing, I was like, I wanted to learn how to DJ. So got like my first decks when I was like 13, 14
Damn.
years old. And my brother like got me, my brother's older than me. My brother's actually 11 years older than me. So my brother got me the How to DJ for Dummies. Remember the For Dummies series books? Have you ever seen those?
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. Those were a long time ago for like the dummy books for
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, bro. If you want to like change your tire, you go to Barnes and Noble. There's like how to change your tire for dummies, and it's like 50 pages.
That's wild. Yeah, I remember this.
So my brother got me the How to DJ for Dummies book, and it taught you everything pretty much from like how like from like everything on the decks, and like it was like modeled after like the Pioneer, like the CDJs, and how to mix and everything, and how to like count and beat, like, all that stuff. And then did that for like a year, but I was like, but then I started to learn, they're not, they're mixing, they're not making the damn music. So I went into the next path, and I was like, okay, I want to learn how to make music. And then went ahead, bought Logic for my computer, started to learn how to produce on Logic. And around this time, like growing up, I was also playing hockey. I grew up playing hockey and moved around and everything like that. And even when I was like away playing juniors, I was still just making music for fun in my spare time. And around, I would say 2016-ish was like close to like
Mhm.
my last year of playing junior hockey as well. And I got injured and kind of went ahead, and I was like, you know what? I was like, this was I wasn't like putting any music out or nothing like that. I was just making music for fun, and like making like music for like other like local artists, like mainly like rappers, like hip hop beats and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And pretty much around there was when I was in college here in Orlando, and I was putting more time into my music and everything, just wanting to produce. I wasn't even really worried about engineering, but just making music, and made the
Right.
choice. A lot of like the guys I looked up to at the time went to a school called Icon Collective over in LA, and they had like an online in person, and I was like, you know what, like I'm gonna go through the whole enrolling program, because you had to like send a couple tracks in and all this stuff,
Mhm.
for them to kind of screen you on like if they would allow you to come to school there. So pretty much went through all of that, was blessed enough, got accepted, made the jump over to LA, and this was like 2018.
Mhm.
Moved over to LA, went to school at Icon and everything, finished up then. And by the time I was done, it was like literally like right before COVID happened. Like right before it happened. And LA, man, like I love Cali. I love LA. But it is damn expensive.
Mhm.
Damn expensive, dude. Like that whole place, like, dude, like for perspective.
Mhm.
Our apartment was right across the street from our school, but I also had two other roommates too, and I had like the second smallest room. Our full rent was $3,600 a month for our apartment. And
Man,
yeah, exactly, bro. It
no,
sucked. And that didn't include utilities too. Oh, that didn't include like utilities. Like Cali is expensive.
no,
Is
I would
it?
never live there.
Nah, like me and my girl always said, because my she's my wife now, she's my girlfriend then. She ended up coming out there later on in the year. And we always said like it was crazy enough because we ended up leaving LA right before COVID. Like we didn't know any of that stuff was happening, but we came back like a couple months before, and then COVID hit. And then looking back on that, we were like, there's no way we would have been able to stay in LA if we were still there. So it's like God was like watching over us, bro. Because
That's crazy,
yeah, it was a wild time. That whole era was wild for everybody though, you know?
dude. I was probably in the middle of high school. I was in the middle of high school when COVID hit. I was like going into I was in my sophomore year when it hit,
Mhm.
and we didn't go back. I think we started hybrid schedules my junior year, and then we didn't do full on back to school like every day till my senior year. And I mean, so many people looked at it and they're like, dude, you missed out on the experience because that's true. I mean, half the events that like for 2 years, like we didn't
Mhm.
do any of the events just
Damn, yeah,
because of how,
like robbed you of like that experience kind of,
yeah,
you know? Like that's shitty. That's that was never fun. I'm sure like everybody went through just being robbed of everything, their time and all of that. Cause
right.
like cause that was like a looking back on it now though, it's kind of funny. That whole time was just like a blur of just like everything was going because when I was like my sophomore year of college was when
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go pursue music. Just jump all in. And and then I like went there, school and everything, and I worked at the same time. And then we came back right before COVID. And it was crazy enough. That was also as soon as I came back was when my business casual project was going on. So I was like producing a lot of EDM, like bass music, and that was like when we got we got picked up on like the circuit here in Florida, so we were playing a good amount of shows and everything. And then that whole time period was crazy because it's like everything was going so good and like everybody's having fun, and then COVID happened, and then shows stopped too, and then everybody was just
Yeah,
like
that's
it was a scramble. It was a complete scramble, and like we had like buddies who like had their own promotion companies too, and they were like really scrambling trying to make it going and everything. And I remember like 3 months in, like some of the clubs are like, hey, do you guys want to come play a show? I'm like, with people? Like, yeah, like we're running like normal ticket sales and everything. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, I'm good.
yeah, everyone's gonna go in the club, someone's gonna get COVID, the whole fucking venue is just dead. Like,
Bro, from one of the shows, I heard one of the direct support guys ended up did getting COVID and people there got sick. I'm like, of course, like, what did you
yeah,
expect? But
no.
people are in desperation. But then yeah, after that time, man, it was me and my partner at the time, we kind of just went our separate ways. And I ended up kind of leaving the EDM side of stuff. Like I'm still in it
Mhm.
and everything. But I definitely have become more of a like studio producer and engineer, so kind of producing for other people now. And mixing for bands, artists, just all around the world, which I love. I love. I miss the show aspect, but there's also something very calming about just like being able to, settle in and just work on music. So I never take it for granted every single like I feel very blessed about it, But it hasn't been easy, but
Hey, all the fingers crossed for you, man. I
I
think I
appreciate
think
it, bro.
from what I've watched on your socials in the last couple of weeks, I mean, I'm pretty actually stoked for some of the things I see.
Oh, I
I really
appreciate that,
I
bro.
enjoy watching your socials sometimes.
That means the world to me. Thank you. It's an up and down journey, man. Even like being like freelance, and I've had some crazy and really great opportunities with artists and labels and stuff like that to write for people. But
Mhm.
if there's one advice I tell people, I'm like, dude, even when things seem like they're flowing good, just be ready because something's gonna fucking gut punch you around the corner. You just gotta keep going, but it's worth it. It's 100% worth it
Yeah.
every time.
dude, I mean, that's what I think I experienced the first time I did podcasting is like I just didn't network, I think, correctly.
Hmm.
And once I just I like every week it's like I wasn't networking enough, I think, when I look back at it. And I would get a guest, but then it's like I would be crunching for time every week. I'd be putting myself on weekly deadlines, falling behind. And then it's like the day before I get the interview done, and then it's just like stay up all night getting the editing done just to make sure it's all posted in YouTube and all loaded up, ready to go. And it's
Right.
like I've watched some of the old stuff I took down, and I'm like, the editing was horrible and everything. It looked so rushed. Like everything felt rushed.
But the good thing about that, bro, exactly like kind of like what you just said, is like going back and looking back at your old stuff. That is like probably one of the biggest points of growth for any of us. Like even the
Sure.
content that like I was posting last year, even whether it was like production stuff or like mixing tips or whatever it was, like looking back on it, I'm like, dude, this looks terrible. I'm like, what the hell was this?
What are
I'm
you
like,
thinking, man?
bro, for real. I'm like, you thought that transition in the middle of that part was just good? I'm like, that made no sense and looks just horrible.
It's like, oh, you got that guitar riff and you got to transition it with some drums and all kinds of other stuff. And it's like, and then you do some backbeat kind of thing to just blend it. And it's just, and you just look back on it. And it's like, what the fuck was I doing, dude? What? I would have done this, this, and this. But
Oh
then,
yeah.
like, the thing is, back then you wouldn't have thought of that. But the only reason you thought of that now is because you've done more repetition
Yep.
and you're now just like, that's what I would do. Cool.
Oh
But then you
yeah.
just but that's what I've said it every single episode I've recorded so far because it's come into relevance. But that we are all our worst critics.
Oh,
I'm just saying, dude. Like
100%. Oh,
100% it is.
bro. Me and my wife talk about that all the time. Like as humans, we will always be our biggest critics. We will always, if we let it get to that unfortunate point, we'll always be our own demise. You know,
Yeah.
most of the stuff negative that has come in my career most of it has been from myself. It hasn't been from anybody else around. Everybody else around me has always been supporting me. You
Yeah.
know, even like everybody like, but everything that's been negative, nobody's ever told me to like, hey, just quit. Or like, hey, you suck. You might get that one comment from like user 278. They're like, bro, these are the fucking worst drums ever. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But
Whatever, bro. It's just it's a troll on the internet, dude. I wouldn't think much of it.
exactly, bro. Like I always say already, the internet's a fake place. It's a fake place, but it's a necessity for our modern day and age. Like, like for business
Mm.
wise, for creatives, it is, I always say it is the most like double-edged sword thing ever. You know,
Right.
it's good, but then at the same time, you're going to get sliced up in the process one way or the other. But it's definitely, I think, the probably one of the best things, especially if you have a business or like just a creative nowadays, to be
Hmm.
able to put your in. It's free marketing too, you know?
Yeah. If you know how to do it right, it's free marketing. It's
Yeah.
free everything. I mean, if you know how to manipulate the system just enough, it's like you'll do fine.
Right. Right. I kind of want to get your opinion on this too. Like we are so unfortunately confined to an algorithm nowadays, you know?
Right.
Do you ever like find yourself kind of telling yourself like, hey, like don't get caught up in that bullshit, just keep posting? Or like me personally, sometimes I will tell myself that,
Huh.
but at the same time, I will be this like that guy who goes online and I'm doing research. I'm like, what are they fucking changing? Because I'm like I always treat myself as a business, you know?
Sure.
Like I'm a business, I have a service, I have to give it to people, like whether it's artists, bands, podcasts, whatever. So what are you kind of your thoughts on that?
I can never keep up with the algorithms, to be honest. I kind of stopped paying attention to some of it after a certain point. Like I pay attention to the brief basics, which is
Gotcha.
consistently posting, engaging with your community, and all that other stuff. I've kind of steered away in a sense from doing Google and Instagram and sorry, I'll rephrase that. Doing Google and Meta ads and
Right.
shit. Like I've kind of steered away from it just because back when they first had like released all that stuff, like you could get thousands and thousands and thousands of interactions,
Oh
like
yeah, big time.
just like that. But now I would dump $20 into it back in the day, and I'd get so many interactions and views. But then you dump $20 into it now, it's like you get a couple hundred people, and it's like, dude, I could talk to people and just network the shit out of that week
Yeah.
and get that many interactions. It's like I don't need if I that's how much I want, then shit, I can just talk to like 200 people
Right.
to get attention. It's like, and I mean, I feel the algorithm system has just become so broken in a sense that for people that can't hyper fixate on it every single day, 24 hours a day, you're not going to be successful with it
Yeah.
unless you're just lucky or you have someone that it will look after it for you.
True.
But I stopped paying attention after a certain point, as I said, just because so much of it changes on such a regular basis because now it's so based off what the trends are. And
Yeah.
especially if you want to be relevant, you have to use TikTok and stuff like that and abuse that kind of stuff. And as I said, you need to follow trends to even do that, to even be
Mhm.
successful on those platforms because if things change daily at this point. And I mean, personally, like, what if my feed just doesn't show me the recent trends? I'm
Right.
just saying. Then I'm
And
gonna mix out on it before I even, and by the time I find it, it's like it's gonna be done.
it's done, long gone, and then you might try to follow
Exactly.
the trend and there's like nothing to it. And that's the thing that like is kind of scary in a way. Like, from
Mm.
my opinion, like I'll get like cues like sent to my email, right? And they'll be like, "Hey, Keon," I'm like, "Do you have anything that's like any type of tracks for like a commercial or whatever it is, even for sync placement?" And they'll be like, kind of like in like a TikTok style beat, where I'm just like, and when
Mm-mm.
I read that, bro, it like takes a piece of my soul. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
like,
I just
it just
I
rubs the
don't know.
wrong way. It's like I get it. I completely get it. It's it's the day and age what we're in. It's the biggest thing. It's TikTok has been very beneficial for look how many artists have popped off from TikTok in the past couple years.
Yeah, like definitely. I've seen so many of them. It's like
Yeah,
so many. It's like you look at festival lists, like of like big major festivals, anywhere from the United States to Europe. You see so many names on there now you wouldn't have seen 3 years ago.
true. So
That
true.
and there's so many like mainstream artists that we had a couple years ago that you don't even see at festivals anymore because all these people have popped off on the social media stuff that it puts them out of puts these people out of relevance.
Yep. And that's the thing that's scary too about that, like about the industry, like for bands and artists, is most of the time from like what I've seen, those artists that pop off that kind of quick because of a trend, there was no substance behind that brand and that artist to give it the longevity and give it like a solid run of a career. It's
Right.
and so then it's like these big companies will latch on and it's like, okay, they're gonna it's because artists are assets, for companies and for labels, of course. And then it's like they'll be used right then and there because this trend, and then there was no catalog or anything. So then like the fall off is even faster. So that's kind of the scary part of it, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like, you hear all the horror stories of the music industry being so cutthroat, but then like you look at it now and I'm like, if you really put all those perspectives into mind, it's a lot worse than it was a couple of years ago. I mean, just
Mm,
let's be honest. In my observation, like you say, like they'll latch onto these people because they popped off because of a trend, and then they'll skyrocket. And then obviously the promotions from that label or whatever company will make it go even higher. But then,
hmm.
as you said, they just fall equally. They fall even harder than they rose.
Yeah. And it's
It's
scary.
scary to
It's
see.
and it's like and it sucks too because it's kind of the thing of like how we were saying, they'll latch on, they'll ride the trend of it and everything. And then also at the same time, these major labels and stuff will also they're dictating what that person's doing. Okay, so it's like, so you're good for this trend while the trend's going, and then they're like looking at the metrics and everything as the year goes, and it's like, oh, we're starting to we're starting to go down. It's like, all right, sorry, hey, we're gonna have to let you go. So it's like everything's just being latched into just trends now. So I definitely try to stay away from that stuff because at the same time, there are people like so many other people who kind of have the same mindset as us. Like they just want good
Mhm.
music. They just want good music. People want to go to good live shows. People
Yeah.
want good substance in their music. I'm like, I know I do for sure, personally.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I avoid it, as I said, 100%. Just like what you said. I avoid all of it because it's
Mhm.
like I don't want to get sucked into something that goes out of my control.
Yeah.
And then what if I get painted with that image from that trend? And it's like, I don't, but that's not me.
So true.
And it's
So
like,
true.
and then I don't want to be remembered for that because then for all I know in my mind, that could affect an opportunity I could get 5 years down the line from now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Someone may not want to interact with someone who got somewhat famous from a trend,
Right.
after it kind of declines. And if you have a history of that, then it's like, if that's on your history, I mean, I know plenty of bigger artists that would just not want to interact with you because you'd be, the stipulation would be that trend that was 5 years ago.
Right. Right. Do you know who Connor Price and Nick D are? Have you heard of them?
I think so. I've heard of them. Yeah.
So I feel like their whole model around like their brand as an artist was like the perfect way to do it independently because they utilized content with songs. I saw like an interview recently of Nick D, and he was on a podcast with Kyle Beats. I don't know if you know who Kyle Beats is.
I
He's
don't
like a
know who that
YouTuber.
is.
He's like a YouTuber like producer. And Nick D, he's doing like 7 million monthly listeners on Spotify. All independent. All independent and everything. Get has gotten approached by pretty much all the major labels, but he's like, dude, I built this up by myself and he's like, I look at myself as a business. He's like, yes, I'm a creative, but I'm a business, like first off. He's like, my music's the product. He's like, why would I give away majority of everything I've built so high up in this company? And like as a company, as a business, as a artist, he's like to
Mhm.
give that all away and have somebody control every bit of it. And I was like, that's true. That's
That's a
true.
valid point. I mean, he would be signing away all his rights to everything, and
Yeah.
not only that, it's like then after that point, that those label people, if he gets matched with just someone that just has a bad taste of blood for him, it's like they can kill it so fast.
Oh yeah.
And it's like if he wants it to be a thriving business the way he probably did it, shit, I would keep going the way you're going. I mean, no matter how
Right.
much money you get offered. I mean, because even if he were to be signed to a deal where he has full control of everything, it's like in some way, shape, or form, if the promoting people don't want to see the same vision,
Mm.
then it's there's no hope for it, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Like you said, bro, you said it perfectly. They'll kill it off faster than anything in a heartbeat. So it's like if you have like a shirt company. You
Mhm.
build it up to being like Supreme style. You wouldn't just give that away if some other like big
No,
like exactly. So it's like I get that. And I feel like that's where people kind of get the lines blurred a bit between like being a creative and like a business, you know?
sure. I completely understand. I completely can see that. Yeah, because I mean, as you said earlier, like everything, no matter what, is a business. Like
Hmm.
in this industry, like everything's a business. And how you really project it correctly, you have to see it as that. But not only that, just put all your blood, sweat, and tears in it and think what's the best for that brand. How is that going to translate to the future, depending on what I do?
Right.
Because maybe for some talent, they're doing a very good trajectory, but what if signing with a label would actually be a good decision for them?
Right.
It's it depends. It really varies on who you are.
Yeah. 100%. It's definitely murky waters, but you kind of just always got to look after every single thing that kind of comes your way because it's also kind of scary because what if the one thing that's coming your way might be something that's going to help you out in the long run and it actually is, but at the same time that you always hear these horror stories left and right, so then you just might like pass up on like the opportunity that could be it.
Yeah, it's like you and you could just get anxiety and be like,
Right.
do I want to do this? And it's like it could be that opportunity. And then eventually you overthink it. And then what if one day you decide to sign with the wrong person
Right.
because you're just like, I'm gonna do it, but then opportunity's already passed, and then this new one comes up, and it's like, okay, cool, but then that person just wants to take advantage of you. It's just I've seen so much stuff, I've read so much stuff, and I try not to follow what the media says, but
Yeah.
it's it's scary to think about.
It really is. It really is because stuff can go in so many different directions in the blink of an eye. It really can.
I just, yeah, that, I mean, that's just the internet and the way things are going with social media right now.
Yeah,
It's a whole different thing. I mean, you would look at someone 10 years ago and you probably wouldn't think of what's a social media influencer. Like that wouldn't be a thing.
true. You're
And
like, what
and
the hell?
a social media marketer is like unheard of back then. There
Yeah.
were people that were in that industry of things, but it was so small. Like you would have never thought that,
It would be like a
you know,
full
those
blown like
people,
new thing, like a
maybe a
new
whole new
way of
business.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like I didn't see it. When I
Mm-mm.
mean, even though I was getting into social media in like high school and I was kind of just like figuring it out, and it's like you figure out how it works, but then you're just like, I just didn't see the relevance in a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then just the way, and then like when we talked about COVID a little bit, it's like that's when all of it really skyrocketed because everyone was at home, they weren't doing anything, and they're
Yep.
finding new things to occupy their time. They open TikTok and they're just like, oh shit, I see all these people on here. You know, maybe I can do what they're doing. I see a million likes on their page. Maybe I can do that.
True. And that's how so many artists came out of COVID. So many
Exactly.
artists came out of COVID because everyone was stuck inside. They're like, you know what? Maybe I'll give this a shot. And then they blew up in the TikTok artist era. I wonder what the next era of like social media platform artist boom will be. Is like,
And it's you already know that it's going to end up being something that we don't even see or expect. And it's like
oh,
all of a sudden it's like it starts trending on news outlets and it's like the thing that replaces TikTok kind of thing. And then it's like, and then we just look at each other and we're just like, what the fuck, man? Like
what is
what's
this?
this? What is this?
It's gonna be like a hologram app where somebody can like live perform and dance on your phone. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Right. It's like a hologram. The future's here. They're just gonna call it like I don't feel inspirational right now, but
Pocket dance. Everyone's just gonna be
Pocket
dancing.
Dance. Yes. Yes. That sounds like some shit the world would name something that would go viral. I'm just saying.
What?
It would be the dumbest thing in the world. Dumbest sounding thing in the world, sorry.
I feel like
And
all of
then
these names are just pulled from like a fucking Google what's it called? Like name generator.
yes. It's like I don't know. I even listen to some band names nowadays. I look at some band names nowadays and I'm like, where the fuck did you come up with this? It's like it literally sounds like some shit that you'd pull out of a fucking Google name generator.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's I don't
Some of
know.
them hit good though. Some of them hit really good.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like there's so many good bands and artists and talent out there that you if you I'm just gonna say if you're trying hard enough to find something that clicks, there's something out there for you nowadays. Like
Oh yeah.
even if it's an artist that only has 1,000 streams on each of their songs, it's something.
You'd be
You know, it's
surprised,
something
man.
you could it's something you could latch onto.
Right. There are so many incredible unheard artists out there now, and like it's just a matter of I feel like whether you're an artist, podcaster, like producer, it's a numbers game at this point. It's just like we were saying earlier, just putting it out there. Even
Right.
for bands, like that was like you said, so many bands came out of TikTok too because it gave them so much extra like, hey, we can easily just throw these videos up. And sometimes most of the bands were just repeating the same video and it would just blow up. And then the next one would like maybe
It's
do mediocre and then blow up the next one.
that shit it's still going on. It's like you go to all these spam pages and it's like they repost the same 5 videos and they all get the
Yeah.
same response. And they're abusing the algorithm. And then they're just like at the end of it, every single one there's advertising a TikTok shop product. And I'm like, I have seen so many people that made so much money off that, but at the same time, they don't make shit if they don't trend right. And it's like,
Right.
and then you have all these people that are advertising, like TikTok shop for dummies kind of thing. It's like
Yeah, dude. Every other scroll on TikTok is a
mhm.
TikTok shop thing now. Every other one.
It pisses me off. I'm tired of it. I want old TikTok back where it's all like stupid, funny shit.
Yep.
Or if it's not that, it's like stuff that actually is relevant, not, oh, go buy this dental floss thing, like this water flosser or whatever that you see like 10 bajillion times on your feed. Like anything like that. It's like, why?
That's all it is now. It's literally just Temu videos. You know Temu, like the app where you can like
Yes.
it's literally Temu
Yes.
videos. Oh, that's it,
Fuck
bro.
Temu. I'm sorry. I had a friend that got super into Temu and kind of tried to get me into it. And it's just, they're like, it's such a cool thing. And I'm sitting over here playing with it. I'm like, this is a fucking scam.
It's the
Like,
like cheapest product stuff. I don't know what people
Yes,
expect.
like they would send me all this stuff. Like, look at all these amazing products, and then they send it to me, and then it's like, oh no, it's like some strip lighting that has fucking like 5M tape or whatever on it,
Right.
and then it's not. It's like the basic cheapest piece of tape, and you just put it on
It's
your
like
wall, and it falls
scotch
off in
tape.
10 minutes.
Yep.
Yes,
It's
it's
just scotch
so
tape
bad.
lining. That's so funny. That's literally TikTok, bro. That
It's
is 100% TikTok.
no, just
But
no.
come back to like bands and everything, what like kind of music are you into? Like what's kind of your taste and stuff?
I'm into like rock and metal. Like I'm a big rock and metal and kind of
Hell yeah.
person. I'm also someone that really dives into all the subgenres too. I mean,
Yeah.
deathcore and all the like alternative metal, progressive metal. I mean, you can go. I can go forever about different sub genres that I would gladly just preach to the moon. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
know
They're
I've seen
there.
so many different things. Like I feel like new genres have come up in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So much fusion stuff is happening. Like one of my favorite things, I don't know where I heard it from. I think it's probably a Rick Rubin thing, but like
Mhm.
genres are dead. And
Right.
I'm all for. It's just good. Of course, everything is still, we'll have it categorized. Like you can't just have
Mhm.
like metalcore and like and stuff and then put it next to like jazz and be like, yeah, but this is progressive. It's like progressive jazz core or something like that. It's like,
Right.
eh, I don't
It's
know. It's not
what about
that,
what about you, man? What are you into?
bro. Kind of the same thing. So funny enough, so I grew up going to like a Christian school all the way to like
Ugh,
eighth grade, and bro, it was
I'm judging.
it's a judge all you want, please. It was different, bro, because the people that come out of there, like me and like one of my best friends, like we've known each other since fifth or sixth grade.
Yeah.
Um, and he's a drummer. That's how I kind of got really, really into music, like in middle school, like sixth
Hmm.
grade time, was because like my best friend was a drummer. He was like the reason why I got into pop punk and like metal and stuff. Like
Right.
sixth, seventh, eighth grade, bro. My iPod Nano, all I had was Slipknot. All I was
Dude,
listening to was
fucking
Slipknot
banger right there. Come on. What's
all
your favorite
day.
Slipknot album though?
Iowa, you can't go wrong with Iowa.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with Iowa. For me, it's either like Iowa or the Gray Chapter.
Oh yeah, R.I.P. Paul Gray. But the Great
Yeah,
Chapter was
dude. That
great, dude.
that album brought Tori unleashed so many demons with that album. It
Yeah.
was heart-wrenching when you really look at some of it. You just hear the pain in every vocal.
Oh yeah, and you like get into some of the lyrics too, and it's pretty deep. Like, do you have like a favorite Slipknot song? If you had one song,
I can't answer that question. That's the
it's a
thing.
hard one.
I love so many of them. It all is mood based for
Yeah,
me. Like I cannot pinpoint just one song and be like, that's my favorite. I can't do that. Like
yeah.
there's
There's too
there's a couple
many.
artists. There's just a couple artists I listen to so consistently that I just cannot choose a favorite.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of the same way, bro. Like, if I had one song that like I probably listened to the most, dude, Psychosocial. Psychosocial.
That's up there for me too.
Yeah, it's that
It's
guitar solo halfway through is
yes.
I still get goosebumps, bro, to this day, every single time that solo comes on. It
No,
like, bro,
for
you can
me.
throw me in the pit. I'll take 50 elbows to the fucking face to that. I'll get up.
No, for me, it's the beat. It's how hard it just fucking just kicks in. Like you click the song and you just hear the fucking guitar, and then as soon as Corey's vocals kick in, it just changes.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just sit there and the thought of it gives me goosebumps right now. Like the thought of that
Yep.
song and how it progresses, it just
The
uh,
energy in it too. That and duality. Duality, I remember like watching the music video. Two of my favorite music videos is Psychosocial and for Duality.
yeah.
And in Duality, that music video, like where they're in the house and like all these people are just like running into the
Yes.
house, falling through the roof and shit. There's that part like halfway through the breakdown where like Corey Taylor like punches himself in the head.
Yes.
I'm like,
You just
bro,
you
unmatched.
feel it. You
Yes.
feel it. And in my opinion, I think that in Slipknot's route of how they've taken their music, I don't think anyone could fucking top them.
No.
And the way they've been trending over the years, no one can top them.
No, I
There
agree, bro.
there can be so many runner ups, but in my opinion, as long as Slipknot's active, no one's gonna top them.
Yeah. And they're still going. They're still going. I saw they're like they've been in the
Dude,
Midwest. They've been doing like the 99 tour, like where they dressed up in their old jumpsuits and everything. I don't know if you've
yes,
seen that. That's
they've
sick.
been like they've been revisiting a lot of songs that they've never played before. Like one song that I really didn't think they'd actually play is Scissors. And
Did
fucking
they?
they played Scissors at every single show. And that's they haven't played that song in over 20 years.
They brought it out.
They
They
brought
brought
it
it out
out.
there.
But it's like you look at it, but then like so many people have like critiqued how they sing it, and it's like, dude, it's you can feel the pain that they're feeling when they're singing it. They're going through so much. I mean, but
Hmm.
you also have to, and if you look back, if you remember, if you follow Corey or anything, that at the end of last year, I think it was, he took a whole break from touring and
Yeah.
everything. Like he just went quiet for like 6 months.
Because wasn't he doing that solo tour and then he was like kind of halfway through that solo tour, wasn't it? I think
He
I'm
was
not too sure.
juggling Slipknot, his solo project, I think, at the same time.
Okay.
I think he was juggling. I think he was doing two tours at once,
Okay. He was
and
doing
I
two.
think eventually, after a certain point, I think it just became too much for him.
And he was just like, I need a kind of like a break on it.
Yeah, and I think he literally made a public statement. I think about it, and it was like something about mental health and that he needed to take care of himself and his family, and that he has been neglecting all those areas of his life
Right.
at the moment because he was focusing so much on touring.
Yeah.
And that I think that he said like, oh, like once these two runs are majorly done, I'm not gonna fucking do another show for like a couple, like a good amount of months. I think he also mentioned that like, oh, all the major festivals they still had booked in like off and on in their off time as well. He's like, they're not gonna cancel those obviously
Right.
because you already know festivals probably paid them five figures to perform.
Oh, easy. Easy. Because they're pretty much
You already know.
headlining every single festival that they're on.
Yeah, they're like the main headliner of like majority of the stuff that they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Rightfully so, bro. Legends. Oh, legends, my man. Like,
Man, speaking of legends though, what are your inspirations for your work? Like, what are your inspirations and everything for what you do?
man, I feel like that's it kind of bounces around for sure because man, oh, because it would be like I'll be inspired by kind of whether it's first I'm inspired by random stuff in all honesty. Like I get inspired by country. I listen to a lot of country too, funny enough.
Right?
I know it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah,
But
I'm not.
like
I'm not a country guy either.
yeah, not too many people are. And even in Florida, like you would think, like, don't get me wrong, like you come to Florida, if there's somebody, have you have you ever seen the flow grown fucking stickers? Have you ever heard of that or not or
I
anything?
think so. I think I've seen a few.
Okay. So if you're the next time you come to Florida, if you see the flow grown fucking big ass decal over the truck,
Yeah.
they're probably one of the people 100% in Florida that listen to country right now. 100%. But like most
Um.
people in
I'm,
Florida aren't really too on it. Like I was saying, like, bro, the rap game and hip hop scene in Florida is just rampant, wild, which is dope
mhm.
because there are good rappers who come out of Florida. Um, but like inspiration wise, man, it's I listen to a lot of just everything from jazz to hip hop, R&B, soul, pop. I don't really have a genre that I can say that I hate. Like I have stuff
Sure.
that I like prefer not to listen to at all. Um,
Understandable.
but like most of the time I have a bunch of like something recently I've been doing is I bought recently one of like those Newmark USB record players, like vinyl players
Hmm.
and I'll just plug that into my computer, like my computer. Oh, tongue tied, computer here, into my computer, and I have like a whole vinyl collection from my grandfather. My grandfather was a big music guy,
Hmm.
like he loved Louis Armstrong, like a lot of like the classic jazz guys and stuff. But listen to everything. So what I've been doing lately for inspiration is I'll just go and like grab a like probably like 10 random ones and just throw it on and just see what it is. Some of it's just like there's one that was like some type of like Brazilian orchestra. I'm like, I don't know why my grandpa had
Interesting.
this, but it was very interesting. So I definitely try to always switch things up to find inspiration.
Hmm.
Most of the time, though, in all honesty, the inspiration doesn't come. So I have to just make it myself. So whether that's kind of just loading up like a random instrument, kind of play it and everything. I have a bunch of like VSTs and plugins that I use too. And I'll
Mhm.
just go through sounds or sample hunt online on random websites. That's where a lot of my inspiration comes from, is just kind of messing around. That's the number one thing. Most of the time, like I'll have an idea in my head,
Mhm.
for stuff, especially more so along for remixes. If I'm doing a remix for someone or for
Mhm.
myself or anything, I can definitely kind of listen to someone's music and be like, okay, definitely here's how I would do it. But if it's something off the dome, most of the time the inspiration comes from just messing around. Messing around until like you hear that one sound or that one sample, or like there's that one note you play, and then it's like, okay, boom. Now we kind of can get things rolling. So definitely inspiration pulls from a lot of random stuff, bro.
You know, that's something I hear a lot from like a creative minds is that it's just random shit that just pops in their head, just like, oh, like this, and it's
Right.
like, and it just inspires something. I'm the same way sometimes when it comes to like the groove of like questions I write down for people, or even when it's just like how I talk to people. It's just sometimes it's like I get inspired by certain things and it just
Right.
happens.
Yeah, that's the thing, bro. Sometimes I I wish I was one of those people who are like they're like these ultra like creative. They're like, I go spend like 3 days in the woods,
Oh,
and I'm just
no.
like, I'm like, where, what is that? Like for me personally, I have not experienced that. Like if I go outside for the experience, if like we're traveling or anything, for the scenery. I love it, but I'm not the type of person to be like, I spent like 3 days on a mountaintop in just my underwear and I wrote like a hit album. I'm like, I don't think it works like that. Where the hell are they? Where are you getting that shit from?
Dude, that's just crazy. I've heard that. I mean, for me, when I've ever tried to create anything like absurdly amazing,
Mm,
I mean, when I try to get like when I try to like write songs or something, if I ever get the inspiration for that, I just lock myself in an isolated place for like 3 days, 2 or 3 days, and I just
right,
mine and I just stick to myself, and it's like it just comes out. But then like the whole thought process is like, oh yeah, I just want to isolate myself from society for a few days and
right,
get my true thoughts out, get my true emotions out and just raw, get it
right.
out there.
Just like fully just raw kind of creativity.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I do whenever I'm like not feeling creative. But
That's
then like I don't
mm,
know. I
there
feel
and
like
the,
also it could just be polar opposite too.
true, 100%. And that's the thing, is like I'm very big into, I watch like a lot of like other producers, other songwriters, artists. Like I love the whole behind the scenes stuff, or like their creative writing process, because I'm a big fan on like learning what people do behind the scenes. I love that stuff. Like, because it's always been intriguing to me on how people come up with, how they come up with this melody, how they come up with this hook, this, that. So like I love kind of seeing the insight into some people's stuff, but I've also heard some of the craziest stuff for like inspiration. Okay, so I got kind of a weird one I heard. So
Sure.
when I was in school, one of my teachers, this is for our studio engineering class. So it was like pretty much just on mixing and mastering. And one of our teachers, he like had his own mixing and mastering company and everything, like moved around from like LA, New York, and all this stuff. And he had a studio in New York. And one of the artists, he never told us the artist name or anything, but he was like, they were a bigger artist. And whenever they would come into the studio and get into the booth, they wouldn't record unless they were able to get fully naked in the booth. Fully. So what they
What
would
the
do,
fuck?
yeah. I remember hearing this story and I was like, what? He's like, yeah. So when we would have to prep it, he's like, because we would have like the viewport, like where you can see into the booth. He's like, so we would have to cover it off, and they would have a camera inside the booth as well. So they would have to turn the camera off as well for inside the booth and make it pitch black. So that way they could record butt ass naked in the booth. I was like, I've never heard of that one before. But there's that, like, my teacher was like, that was just, they felt the most inspired and the most creative, like when they were just free. I'm like, that is completely being free.
I can't see that vision, man. No,
Bro,
no,
just
that's just
crazy. I was just like, what? Like, I've had some weird stuff happen in the studio over the years, and I've met some like I have horror stories and I have great stories, but that was
right.
I've had nothing like that.
I mean, like, I'd imagine taking your shirt off in the fucking booth or something. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
understand that. That
Right.
seems more understandable, you know.
But butt ass
But
naked.
butt ass naked, balls hanging, just fucking
Just out.
let it be free, dude. Let it be
That's it.
free or some shit while recording. Like, what the fuck, dude? That's
Hey, to each his own. If that's what makes them feel the most comfortable, I guess go for it.
dude, go
Shit,
for it.
it made for a good story later on down the line for sure from my teacher. So,
Hey, we all know, like, you already know the class got a kick out of that one.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I still, bro, that's stuck with me all these years later still.
Oh my God. I mean, hey, you're still, I mean, you're doing music production like you were in class for. So, I mean, there's no reason for it to just stick in your head.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Those ones, man. It's everybody, I feel like along every career path, you definitely get those
You,
stories for sure.
yeah, you get that oddball of the bunch. That's just you're like, that's so fucking weird. But you know what? If that's what makes them make the best music, then whatever, man, go for
Right.
it.
Exactly. And especially like I said, he never said who it was, but he was just like it was a big artist. So I'm like, obviously it was working for them. They were making some great music and
Mhm.
everybody in their team was happy with it. So if that's
Just
the
imagining
case,
if it was fucking Kanye or some shit. Just like that would
that's that's like one of the next verses. Like, I got my balls hanging low in the booth right now. Like,
Huh. I could see him saying something like that too. That's the sad part. Like just based off what he like sings.
oh, 100% that would be a line in one of his tracks. No doubt
Oh God,
about it.
that's just wild. I'd never thought that like I don't know. That's just
You just never expect
it's
that stuff.
crazy.
Imagine doing like one of these like writing camps, like where some like
Mhm.
a team of like producer, like an artist and their producers and their songwriters like kind of get away at like an Airbnb. Imagine like
Yeah.
you guys set up in the living room, like, all right, man, you ready to punch these in? He's like, yeah, give me a sec. You like look over your shoulder and he's butt ass naked inside the house. Like,
That's
whoa.
whoa, plot twist. That's crazy. On a note of like processes, what is your step-by-step process with mixing and mastering a song or even a record?
So usually like step by step wise, it kind of varies and everything because like normally like if it's like a two track, which is where you just have just the beat alone and like the vocals, it's a way easier kind of simple process. You're more focused on so because you just have the beat in just one full audio file, like one full stem, you kind of just tailor to that. So those kind of aren't too long. It mainly would come down to like if there's like a lot of like more creative effects. So like
Sure.
delay throws, reverb, and all that kind of stuff, then I can kind of dial in. But like more my process for like full stem, like if I'm mixing like full instrument, like all the drums, all the synths, guitar, all the vocals and everything. My process kind of straightforward. I'm a very kind of organized person when it comes to my project files.
Mhm.
So whenever I like kind of load everything in, like I have to have everything kind of color coordinated. I'll go
For
crazy,
sure.
kind of working on a song if things are kind of just all over the place. Um, and from there kind of well my process I always kind of work on the drums first. Drums will usually be like the first thing I kind of dial in and kind of get really locked in because drums are the heartbeat of a song. If not
For
every
sure.
song has drums, but for songs that have drums, drums are definitely like the heart of the song. From there kind of we'll work on the drums, then I'll kind of go ahead and bring in the instruments, kind of go ahead, mix the instruments, kind of give them the flavor and the tone and everything of what they're going for. And I'm pretty big on communicating with the artist or the band. Like my whole job is to bring your vision to life. That
Right.
is 100% my job. My job is to be your partner from step one all the way to release and even after. I'm big on promoting projects that I work on because I was a part of the process too. So
For sure.
I always definitely think every producer every even songwriter, even if you got like lyrics entail, like you're part of that process. And I see a lot of people who like they'll just work on it, and because they're more behind closed doors on those kind of things, and they're not the face of it like the artist is, they kind of feel like a little bit more like recluse, I guess, for not wanting to
Right.
put it out. But I've always been a big believer. I'm like, dude, producers and engineers are the backbone of the music industry. I will fight tooth and nail on that belief, because most artists don't know how to mix their stuff. So
Right.
my job is to be that partner in creating and bringing your vision to life, and bringing the soundscape that you want to present to the world, to life. So pretty much I always work hand in hand with the artist all the way through, making sure they're the way that they want their drums, even like the tonage of their drums kind of in, like locked in, you know?
Mhm.
And then once I get everything dialed in from instrument wise, then work on the vocals. And from there, it kind of becomes I always try to get everything down the best that I can ahead of time. So that way, whenever I kind of like send that first draft of like a mix or a demo or anything,
Yeah.
like I always try to like dial it in as much as possible the first time, to where they're like, "Oh man, like this sounds great." So now we just go ahead and like do like the delay throws? Can we do like the reverb throws? Like can we do like the more fun part of stuff? That's
Yeah, like
usually
all
how
the
my
stuff that really like puts like the diversity into the
Yeah,
music.
exactly, man. Exactly. You said it perfectly. Like those little things, I've made so many pieces of content on ear candy in
Mhm.
songs, because ear candy, whether it's like Foley in the background. So like if you have like the sound of like a forest in the background of your song, that can really set like a whole vision for
Right.
what the song is trying to do. Like, so those little ear candy pieces, even delay, reverb, that kind of stuff, man, really, really kind of just takes it to the next level for sure.
Yeah, you gotta get that like intro vibe that like the audience near immediately gets that feeling of just like being able to put imagery into the sound,
Right.
and then eventually just being able to vision the entire thing, and then it all comes together, and then eventually at that point, I mean, one of the things I've talked to with artists in the past about is like the hook of far into the song do you need to be like when you hook the person, like how soon
Right.
in the song do you have to be for that? Like, what do you, what mean, what do you think?
So I feel like that's such kind of like a, like, kind of, what's the best way of saying it? Is you I always hear people who will say nothing is going to be more important than the melody and the chorus section, you know? They like, then even like in my songwriting class and like throughout the years, with whenever I've worked with people, they always say if a 5-year-old can hum the melody for your song, you got a hit on your hands. Like melodies and music shouldn't be like, so the hook or the chorus should never be too complicated. But also at the
Sure.
same time, with how my view on this has kind of changed with how things are kind of going in the world.
Sure.
I think our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, like as people,
Mhm.
with social media. Like look at a short form content. Short form content is the biggest thing on the planet right now. Everybody's like trying to push short form content to promote their music and everything. Um, and that entails it's stuff is going to keep getting generated in that way. So I've kind of switched my mindset into be if you can kind of hook somebody in the intro now has sort of become the most important part of a song a little bit. Because you have to, if you can catch somebody within the first 5 seconds of a song, I think that's the most important, because now you got their attention. So, but now that you have their attention, what story are you going to tell? You know?
Exactly.
What story are you going to tell? What are you like? What picture are you painting for the listener? So I definitely think now, I think the intro is definitely the most important part to be like a hooky kind of thing nowadays, because that can definitely bring the listener in. Now that you got their attention, now you're trying to sell your song in a way to that one person. It's kind of, I can think of it like Shark Tank, like Shark
Right.
Tank a little bit.
Think of Shark Tank. It's like I think the one thing I've learned from watching Shark Tank is the longer you pitch something, the harder it is to get someone to bite on it. The
Right.
quicker you can sell it, the easier it'll be, the more
Yeah.
successful it could be.
100%.
And also simplicity also at the same time. for anything when you're
Hmm.
pitching something is the most very important.
And that's a big thing, like you said, bro, is the simplicity of stuff. Like I'll send demos out to artists and stuff, and I'll send them demos that I produce for them. And most of the time, I always try to keep it in mind whenever I'm writing a song for somebody. I'm like, you can always add more later, especially in the demo stage. You're just
Yeah.
trying to get the vision going. You're trying to get the legs on the thing. You're trying to give it legs to keep going. So most of
Right.
the time, like I will kind of write a song, send it to the artist, and most of the time, because I've kind of switched my mindset to being just more simple, they'll be like, "Thank you so much. I keep getting stuff that is just overcomplicated." Like it's like producers and like other songwriters are just adding a bunch of unnecessary stuff, like trying to impress the artist, but they don't
Right.
realize that they're stripping so much away because you have to still leave room for the most important part of the song. If that song has vocals, the vocals are the most important part of the song.
That's what blends it together. The
Exactly.
vocals could kill or make a song a banger.
Right.
Instrumentals, like if you want instrumentals, like don't make an instrumental song.
Right.
But if I think vocals are the bread and butter of any song that has
Absolutely.
it.
And you can always add more later, especially in those early stages. You can always add more. And that's what we do most of the time is you'll get like the baseline kind of ideas, you're painting the picture, send it off,
Right.
they'll lay the vocals, and then next thing after that, you're kind of doing a little bit more production stuff or post-production stuff, just adding in like those little extra like other instruments or other
Mhm.
sounds that you're kind of going or just other effects in general. You can always do that afterward for sure. So it's definitely
Definitely.
building the foundation. I think that's where people forget. And then one thing that like I've always heard, especially if you're writing for other people, is I'll hear people who will get like these crazy beats or crazy instrumentals and stuff, and then people are like, "Okay, so you didn't write this for an artist. You wrote this for to make other producers to go, man, damn, dude, this shit is fire." It's like you didn't really write that for somebody if you're trying to be like monetized on it.
Right. You're right. You and I've one thing I've always like learned from talking to people is just any as you said, like in demo stages, it's like it's not about impressing the artist, it's about giving them that vision to
Mhm.
either extend like to be able to extend the song, create it into its glory that it's supposed to be,
Right.
and it's just supposed to be the baseline of where you're going.
Yeah, that's you said it, it's the baseline. You said it perfectly, bro. It's just people we're always trying to nobody wants to have their music like be sent out and somebody be like, "Oh, shit, like what is this shit?" You know? So
Right.
people will like will think if we overcomplicate it, then it's something new, which we're all trying to do something new. We're always trying to reinvent the wheel, you know?
Right.
But the wheel's already been invented. You know, everything that could be done, is there stuff that's going to come out that is like going to be crazy? I've heard some of the craziest beats that are like completely like offbeat. Things are like not in sync. There's like the timing's all messed up. But then somebody's
No.
somehow laying vocals over it and they're putting it out thinking that hopefully that's going to be the one thing that's going to blow up their career because it's
Nope.
different. But that's not the case of it, you know? It comes back to like you said, bro, it's simplicity. You still have to kind of keep it simple in a way.
Right. And I mean, man, when you talk about like being off key or even just like being off beat in general, like any of that stuff, like personally as a musician, because I did orchestra all through like middle school and high school and even some of my early elementary school, like
Oh,
late
hell yeah.
elementary school
What'd you
days.
play?
Cello.
That's what's up, man.
And I mean, whenever someone or anything would be offbeat, it just triggers me. When I listen to songs and I'm just sitting there like, this shit has to be offbeat. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you listen to it, it's consistency and you find the inconsistencies and you're just like, and it bothers you because for me, my ADHD, what it will do when I'm listening to a song and it finds an incorrectness or an error in a song because it's either offbeat or it's not, following the key signature correctly,
Right.
assuming what it might be. And it just, it mentally, I obsess over it. And I'm just like, why the fuck did they do this?
Oh,
Who
yeah.
was doing this?
You'll like literally, I'll fixate on that. And I always joke around and say, like, being a producer and engineer ruined how I listen to music now. Like, I
Ugh.
can't, like, and not, I like, I'm joking in a sense, but like, not also at the same time because I'll like listen to a song and I'm just like, damn, I'm like, the mids in this song are blown out. I'm like, what? To where before you don't ever think of that stuff.
Right.
But then it's also a problem because kind of the same thing. I'm like the exact same thing as you, bro. Like I'll listen to a song and I'll hear that they like swung the hi-hat like too much. So there's like too much swing on the hi-hat and it's like not really even like in a good kind of pocket where it can kind of groove and everything. It's just completely
Right.
off. And then my mind will just forget everything else and just be fixated on that one offbeat thing. And I'm like, I can't even listen to the song anymore.
Right. You're just like, dude, it ruins it for you, and you just fixate over it, and it's like you're supposed to stop and want to enjoy this song, but it just doesn't, and then
Yep.
you're like, I love this song for what it is, but fuck this song because of these little things.
Oh yeah, and it's all it takes is that one thing to
Yes,
mess it up, bro.
and you'll never unhear it. You'll never
Yeah,
unhear it either.
you just got to go to that Spotify and just unsave the song because you're done. You're done with that point.
Dude, it's like you unhear it, and then imagine like 2 years later, a friend plays it in the car, and you're like, no, turn it off.
Bro, that whenever somebody like says something like that one song, my cousin always tells me this story of his
Mm.
roommate at FSU had I forgot, you remember that is like I think it's by the Fray, the where did I go wrong? I lost the fray.
Oh,
That was his ringtone. So he's
no, no, not
so
that song.
his roommate would always his phone would always go off back to back and that song would play and so that like whenever like we joke about like triggering songs I always like say like joke with my cousin I'm like bro the fray the fray got you he's like dude I never want to hear that song ever again for the rest of my life he's like I could be 6 feet under happily never see listening to that song again.
Fuck that, man. I hate when that happens. There's so many great songs I've heard people make ringtones, and then like it just overplays, and then it's just like,
Yeah.
no, like it would overplay more than you want it to, and
Oh
that's kind of
yeah,
why I don't make songs my ringtones anymore.
I just
Or
have the
if I
default
do,
stuff.
ew, I hate the default stuff. It triggers me. It
What do
pisses
you
me
have
off.
what do you have for yours?
I couldn't even tell you. There's so a bunch of custom shit that I use my friend's MacBook computer, his Mac
Okay.
computer,
Mm.
and we took him like a bunch of beats of like favorite songs and stuff I had, or just even just sounds in general, and I would just put them on my phone. I'm trying to think what my call tone is. Um, it's literally just some line from a movie. I don't even remember what the fuck it is. I don't even know
Okay.
what it is either.
Right.
Like my friend just loaded onto my phone, and I was just like, okay, this could go like a nice ringtone. But
Like we'll settle here. This is good enough.
yeah, right. I mean, and it all fell into place, and the whole point of it was really just I had my phone on silent for like 4 years. I just could never stand ringtones. I didn't want to be that one person in the room that their phone goes off, and it's like
Oh yeah.
everyone looks at you.
Yeah, oh everybody, especially in school,
Yes,
bro. Somebody's phone would get like a text, and they become like there's the number one like subject for everybody in class.
teacher would fucking despise you, fail you out of the class because your phone
Yeah.
went off.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's I
Dude, I
mean,
also
I had to get something on my phone for ringtones, dude. I would miss so many phone calls and so
if you
many
didn't
text
have
messages,
something.
and yeah, I needed something to be able to hear it.
I remember like when I was like in middle school, like ringtones were like the thing. Everybody was always like those phone companies and even like iPhones at the early stages when they had like the ringtones on the store. I think I don't even know if they still
Right.
do. But
They do.
like,
They have like the iTunes store and stuff.
okay, so you can still buy the ringtones off of there.
Yeah, they're like it's still like $1 a piece, which I think is fucking stupid. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, I'd imagine if you bought like an Apple Music subscription that you'd be able to have access to all that.
We hope. We hope. You know, they're
But
trying to
no, you
they
still
got
like I want psychosocial to be my call tone. Holy shit. It's like $1 to $3 just to buy the rights to it. It's not
maybe like
bad, but when you have like
$15.
yeah, and it's like and it's like, oh, that's not bad, but you look at it and you're like, but what if you're buying like 20 different ringtones for like all these different people,
Yeah.
and then it adds up really quick.
Yeah, you might as well just buy an album at that point. You can just
Literally, I started. That's why I was just like, man, my friends like, oh no, don't buy albums, like don't buy records and stuff. Like, just fucking take a Mac computer, and there's ways you could just hardwire it all to your phone. Because I think like on Apple phones, it's the only way to get MP3 files in there. is
It's
if
just like
another Apple
uploading.
device is transferring it.
Oh, of course they would do it like that. You know they would.
Yeah, I'm like I loved Android because you could download an MP3 file off of like the internet and it would work and you could use it.
Right.
Then iPhones are so security based that you can't do that. And if you download the MP3 file, it's like you have to buy like you have to get like four different programs to process it through your phone.
Yeah. And it
And
never
then
like sends it to your files. It will be like in a random download section. And I'm like,
yeah, like somewhere random and I would download albums not realizing this on my iPhone and I had to go like six different areas. And they go through like six different folders saying like subcategories and subfolders and
right.
before I actually found it. And then you can't even open it because it's like your phone's like this is the virus. And it's like, no, it's not. It's just a music file.
It's like I'm just
Like,
trying to get this song. But no, you got
right.
to jump through hoop after hoop after hoop with these, like especially with
Yeah.
iPhones. Even with like MacBooks. MacBooks, you gotta. I don't think you can customize them anymore. That dude, that was actually something a lot of while I was in school, a lot of my teachers would buy like these old like 2011, 2012 MacBooks because I think only until like 2014. I think like 2014 was like the last year where you could like open it up and like actually modify it yourself. Like you can mod it
Yeah.
yourself. So a lot of my teachers were buying these old MacBooks and then just modding the hell out of them themselves, like putting like another 3 grand into just modding it. And then they're like, bro, this thing could
God.
run the newest one into the ground. I'm like, that's a smart way to do it. But then they took that right away.
Yeah. And then they took it away and then they discontinue the old generations of them.
Mhm.
And they're just sitting there just like, why? Why do you do this to me?
Right. They're just like, we just want that control. Give us that
I
sweet
just I
control.
really wish that like companies would stop discontinuing programs like that. Like if it's anywhere from like a software program to even like a phone. Like
Yeah.
why does like the phone model from 4 or 5 years ago get discontinued because they want you to buy the newest one? Like what if I don't want to? What if that old one is just working for me?
Right. And that's like literally their way to force people to have to pay more money. They have to upgrade if they want to keep going with it.
It's a monopoly, man. They just want your money. Like in my opinion, like I don't want to be that person, but they're a monopoly in my opinion. They're
Oh,
capitalizing on everything.
oh, 100%. I agree with you, bro. I agree with you 150% on that. No doubt.
But I mean, I can't imagine. I can't thinking back. I'm like, how much money have I really spent on all this technology stuff because they integrate stuff into new
Oh,
things or they make new things just like replace other things, and it's like
yeah.
it's too much. It's just the way I've already said it like 5 times in this episode. The way that everything's progressing is just too much.
And it's at a
Too
fast
it's
rate.
it's at a fast rate, and if you don't understand how to learn technology, like click of your fingers, it's like you're not gonna get anywhere.
Right. You
And
really won't.
then you're gonna end up paying this like 20-year-old that just knows everything about every little thing, and then you're just like, holy shit, I'm like, I don't know anything.
It's like, how am I like 15 years behind? But like this 8-year-old on YouTube is like
And just
showing me
explain
how
this
to
whole thing.
code right now. I'm like,
It's
what?
like, dude, you're like, what the fuck? Like,
It's crazy. Even in the music industry, bro, like even like with like especially with the AI boom,
yeah,
every single like big music software company or just like every company I feel like in just general, like across the board, not just music, it's just everything is now AI based.
right.
And that's even progressing even at a faster rate too. Cause I feel like last year was like the big public boom of AI. Like AI's been around, but like the big public boom of it being utilized, I feel like was like last year. It just took off and it hasn't stopped. And it's like,
That's crazy. I mean, I just I don't think I've actually captured and realized and just taken in how much AI has taken over the average everyday things.
right,
Because I'm sitting over here just chilling on my old software and my old products, and I'm like, this works fine for me. And then you have some dude that's like 4 years younger than you, or like just excelling, and they're doing this new program, and they're doing it like 10 times better than you,
at a
and you're just
fast
like,
rate.
dude,
Oh yeah,
what the fuck, man? Like I could do this in like a couple hours, and then this guy's doing them in like half that.
that's the thing is like I kind of want to get your opinion on this. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people are saying that AI is going to put creatives like give them a run for their money. I personally don't think it will ever get to that point. I think it will just be utilized more as like a tool to help creatives. But I do know that there's a lot of people who think that it's going to like fully eliminate the job. Like people think that they will like fully eliminate like songwriting, like songwriters and producers or even artists, because then they're saying that these major labels could use AI to replicate, like, say, for example, Drake's voice. So they don't even need Drake, even though I think he has like his own label now. What are your
Right.
thoughts?
I mean, in my opinion, it's one of those things where I feel the same thing as you. As I feel like it should be used as a tool that it won't become something so big. But then I already know that there's going to be at a certain point where I feel like AI is going to be able to not put people out of their job, but be such of a tool that just someone randomly off the street, if they have the right idea, that AI could just make it for them, and then they're just the face behind it, and
Right.
they're just sitting behind a computer wall, and it's flowing. Which I can see if you like how if it was a tool,
Mm,
how someone could abuse the living crap out of it and just become somebody if for just using it, even though they
right.
have no talent in a general. I mean, that's such a I feel like that's such a mean thing to say, but just like
Oh,
I'm
no, what you
being
mean?
dead
Yeah.
honest. Just like
Yeah.
someone that has no talent is becoming, you know, famous because these new systems are just being making it so easy.
Yeah. Which, and I've heard like that's like been like one of the biggest problems, I guess, in like colleges now
Yeah,
is like people are just like using Chat GBT for like their homework. So then I forgot where it was on somebody else's podcast episode I was watching,
yeah,
and they were like, just wait till you go you go to a doctor and their Chat GBT got them through all 8 years of medical school.
dude. There was like this one, I think Friday Night Live episode of like Snoop Dogg being a surgeon or something. I don't remember what it was, but then
I think I
someone
saw that.
recaptioned it and was like, that homie that made it through school getting like F's and discovers AI and becomes the biggest doctor in the world
Yeah.
operating on you.
That's how it's gonna be. It's gonna be
It's
just
like,
smoking a blunt
no.
over you, like in the hospital.
Dude's doing open heart surgery with a blunt in his mouth, just like
Like drop some ash, like, oh shit, man, my bad. Did I get in his chest?
that's
Give me the
just so
vacuum.
bad. It's get a vacuum, vacuum it out. Just do it.
I think
It's
definitely
just
it would be a good tool. Like in all honesty, I use Chat GPT a lot. Like I'll be like, hey, I need some like new ideas for content or stuff like that, and then kind of it helps me brainstorm. So I use it in a tool in that sense. I definitely
sure.
think like I think a lot of people should if it can help you and like speed up. But when it comes to like the actual work that's being done, I don't think it will take people over because then there's just especially in something like music, I just don't think that it could take over and take away like that human touch. But who knows? I don't
Who
know
knows?
anything, bro. I don't know anything, but well, I guess
Me
time
either.
will
I just
tell.
only time I think time will be able to tell us all that, like whatever is in the future. Like we already said it ourselves earlier that before we know it, there's gonna be this big behemoth and it's going to be some big new social media thing. And then what if it's going to be like triggered and powered by AI?
Right.
And then, but the thing is, think about it like this: is that eventually something's going to overtake AI. Think
True.
about it. The way things trend, AI is going to end up becoming a big thing, and then something is going to come above it
Right.
and be like, "I'm this is better than that," and just overtake it. That's how I feel like
No,
it might end
I
up going after
I
some point.
agree. It would be scary if it gets sentient and if it gets like it, that's the next step above. It gets its own mind. Then we're living in real life. What's that Will Smith movie?
Terminator.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. We'll be Terminator and iRobot.
It's like the fuck, man. Like, I don't know. I don't think it could get to that point. I mean, I've watched so many things about it and about how, like, a robot can be as complex as the human makes it.
Right.
Understandable. But the thing I've been seeing is that like there's no way for an AI to have such a complex enough mind to make its own decisions and create its own ideas
Mhm.
enough to where it could actually live a longevity without having to have maintenance or have somebody, look
I
after it.
I agree.
And in some way, shape, or form, like they're like, there's no hard drive you can put in something like that that will. be able to compute enough either storage power to to host all the lines of codes you would need for that,
Mm,
and just all the different like millions and millions of commands you'd need to put into it.
true.
And it's just I mean, it would be an interesting thing to like go into, but it just I can always just see human need in some way, shape, or form in them. Like no matter how far we take it.
Right. Like I completely agree. They would have, like you said, it would have to be updated. Have to be updated. Unless like it learns how to figure it out itself. That would be shit. I hope
I
not.
don't know. I don't think it could get like that. I think it could maybe make it to where it could do tiny little software updates on itself to like update like little bugs it finds on the way. That's one thing, but I don't see it being able to reprogram itself to the point where it could make its own updates and be able to manage itself. I think
Right.
there'd be too much computing power needed at that
True.
for that.
Very, very true. Like way, way too much. It would be nice if it just is like like you said, kind of like just fixing like the minor bugs. Or
For
just leave it
sure.
at that. Like just take care of yourself. Leave us alone.
Exactly.
We're
But I'm
okay.
gonna steer back into the topic of you a little bit, since
Yes,
for a good
sir.
amount of this we've been kind of drifting off
Sorry, we've
topic,
been
and it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
We've been
I'm not
going.
complaining. I'm not complaining. I appreciate it. Um, so more a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
What is probably like your most memorable moment that you've had
Like kind of like in my life or like career wise and everything.
career wise in like music production?
Um, I would definitely say most of like the really good opportunities that I've had have come this year. Um, like I've had some like great opportunities to produce some stuff for some really big artists.
Mhm.
And I was definitely able to hit one of my goals because I was mainly in the hip hop, kind of like hip hop and rap world and everything. And
Mhm.
one of my biggest goals was kind of also venture out into other genres. I just want to make good music. I don't care what genre, what it is or anything. I just want to make good music. So this year I got like some really good opportunities to work on some good songs and everything with some like up and coming artists and like some pretty big artists as well. Was also able to pretty much sign like a publishing deal to like as a producer. So everything definitely came this year. I would definitely say that was like so far this year's been like probably my proudest moment in my career because it feels like
For
everything
sure.
started to fall in line. Um, it's been a long grind, but in all honesty, even though like I'll keep it real, like even though like those big opportunities come, it's not like you can just go on like cruise control at all,
Oh,
at
definitely
all.
no. You would have to tackle it in some way, shape, or form, manhandling it in a
Yeah.
sense.
Oh yeah, 100%.
On another note, what artist have you done work for? At least that
S
you're allowed to list.
So the big ones that like that I've got on this year, I'm not able to yet because like part of that publishing deal was like I signed an NDA. But
Sure.
like a lot of like the good up and coming artists I've worked with, there's like I just got done doing a project with an artist named T Duke. He's out of West Virginia, just moved to Atlanta. He's like a like an up and coming rapper. He does some pretty good stuff. Um, I've been working a lot with my boy Brett. You know Brett.
When in May?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
love him. I love him.
that's my boy, man. That's my brother. He is a great guy, and it's always good. We're working on his new stuff as well. Um, and that's one of the things too, like artist wise, is like I find a deeper sense and a deeper, I guess like a deeper feeling in my purpose of what I do whenever I'm working with other like-minded artists who are putting their heart and soul into what they're doing too.
For sure.
That's definitely been like the number one thing. Man, I'm trying to see. There are so many projects I've done like so far this year. A rapper that I work with all the time, he goes by Jay Smiley. He's really good. He's an Orlando guy. He's kind of does like a little fusion with his stuff. Like he's got kind of like a dope kind of old school meets like new school kind of
For sure.
sound as well. Did a song for Sat Sung that we worked on. He's like a folk artist. He's definitely um like definitely one of like my favorites that I've worked with. Great guy, just incredible artist. I was actually a big fan of his before, and that was like kind of one of those situations where I was like a big fan of his, cold DM like 2 years ago, like never heard anything back. And then he hit me up and was like, "Hey man, like, can you send me some stuff? I want to get a song with you." And I was like, "No fucking way." I'm
No
like,
fucking way. That's
"Yeah."
wild.
I'm like, "Let's absolutely, absolutely." I'm like, "Let's get it going." And we worked on a track. He's like kind of doing this thing where he's like, I guess he's like getting ready to go on tour in Australia. Um, so he just,
Interesting.
yeah, so he just got done doing like he was here in Florida, did like an East Coast tour for like 2 months, and then went back out west for a little bit, did like an acoustic tour, and then now he's heading to Australia to do his Australia tour coming up. So that was definitely like one of like coming back to like the proud moments, I guess you could say. I
Sure.
guess it was like definitely like one of those feelings of like an artist that one, I love his music. Because like I was saying, I like folk music as well, like kind of like that folk pop kind of sound.
Sure.
So that was definitely like a proud moment for sure. And same thing that happened this year. Everything takes time. It's cliche, man. It's cliche as hell, but everything started to line up, bro. So
I
those
was
are
like,
definitely some of the proud ones.
it's cliche, and over time, it kind of all the pieces come together,
Yeah.
and that's a beautiful piece of it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, those are definitely like my favorite ones. And then hopefully next time we talk, I'll like be able to lay everything out on the line.
Hopefully, hopefully, yeah. I mean, going back to like even like some of the stuff I think I'm the most proud of. I mean, I just look back and I don't really think I have any pieces yet that I'm really like that proud of, memorably
Mhm.
wise. But moments, there's definitely moments where I look back and I'm like, that was a highlight. And it's funny to say that I think meeting Brett for the first time like 2 years ago was probably that highlight, like probably my
Yeah.
peak. I think, in my opinion, he's one of those people that kind of gave me my peak. That kind of
Hell
gave me my
yeah.
motivation to keep going. And
He-
I met him 2 years ago, and I did like best moment with him. I think 4 hour podcast with him.
Damn,
I swear
y'all
to
went.
God,
Hell yeah.
we did 4 hours, and in my opinion, physically, it was in a sense miserable because after a while, you're just sitting there and you're just like, but then we were having so much fun. It
Yeah.
was so much fun. I mean, I can
That's
compare it to the amount of fun me and you pretty much have had so far in this conversation.
Oh, I appreciate that, bro.
It
I'm
was
I'm
just
fucking having a blast.
nonstop. It was just nonstop, and it was just we kept it going the whole time. We like kept relating personal stuff to other things, and it was I got a lot of content out of it. And I'm so sad that episode actually never was allowed to air.
Oh.
I think my proudest piece coming up is when I get my interview with him finally, my final like up to date when in May interview
Mm.
with him, and I think I'm gonna pay one my editor to just go through all like it's gonna probably end up being roughly like 8 hours of content,
Oh,
and
hey, that's good though.
I'm gonna be like go through that and make a montage of me and Brett's like best moments,
Oh, yeah.
just
I can
just
only
for the humor.
imagine.
I was being merciful with them, and I promised it wouldn't make it to YouTube because there would be too many things that it would probably be a good hour long of just funny moments between me and him. But it's gonna probably surface on Instagram, so
Hey, it
I'm
does
pretty
the
excited for
job.
that little thing to happen.
And that's like kind of get your perspective on that too. I think like proudest moment kind of thing. Looking back and like is the growth of just chipping away at it. I would definitely
Yeah,
say. And kind of like looking back and having some self-reflection and just being like, "You know what? Like even with your podcast, you're like, "You know what? Nah, like I'm doing this shit, you know? Like
yeah,
I'm doing it like I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to like quit it and everything." Like that's been one of my proudest moments like whenever shit's gotten hard, I always kept going. And I can't tell you how many times over the years, man, I just wanted to stop, like, and just quit and just be like, maybe I should just get something secure. Sometimes that shit still pops in my head, you know, like it'll be
right,
killer for a couple months and everything. And especially being like a producer and engineer and like mainly being like freelance and everything, you like stuff comes in bunches, especially like trying to work my way to the top. You know, like I'm
for
not one of
sure.
these engineers like producers yet who's like making like 40 grand off of like a single track, like how some of these top dogs are, you
Oh my
know?
God,
So
yeah.
oh bro, it's crazy. I hear like stories of like some of like these like big engineers. Like I'm not gonna say names, but like some of these dudes they're getting like 30 grand a mix.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen there's some very popular studios in like Vegas and Cali and stuff that I've
Mm.
seen that. I remember when I was trying to get into music initially, I wanted to be an artist, but I eventually just realized I didn't have the talent for it, but it was like cool. But I reached out to all these big like studios and they were all just like, there was one studio that told me $1,000 a minute for a mix.
What?
Yeah.
A
If I
thousand?
remember the message correctly, it was like $1,000 a minute.
Bro, that is crazy.
But think about
I've
it like
never heard of
that.
that.
That's that
Right.
like what if it's like a 3 or 4 minute song though? You know what I mean? It's like
And for a
that's a
mix can take weeks sometimes back and forth, you know?
yeah, but it's just like for every they're like it's $1,000 a minute on each song. So it's like if you're doing a 4 minute song, it's like that's 4 grand. But
Dude,
then it's
that
like that's just and I
Oh,
mean
so
I
they
didn't
were
go too specific, but it
right.
was all I think it was all based off like track length. And they were like, oh yeah, you it's like $1,000 a minute.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask. I was like, was it based off of like minute per song? I thought some reason I thought you meant
No,
like minute of time worked. I was like, what?
no, no, but it was like, but then like there was a disclaimer, like the Instagram page, or whatever, sent me. It was just like, but prices may vary based off artist and needs, which
Dude,
is
that is
understandable.
right. But still, that price point is crazy.
And I'm
I
just
mean,
like, I don't know. I'm not gonna say the name of it just for publicity
right,
purposes,
right.
but it's just like, I mean, it was just ridiculous. I got these quotes and I'm like, how the fuck do some of these people like make money? But then again, if you're working with the biggest of the best and that's what you're known for in some of these studios, I mean, shit, I think you'll get your money's worth out of $1,000 a minute.
Right. Right. 100%. And that's how like what it comes down to. Like it's a lot of relationship kind of stuff. You know, like
Sure.
the biggest labels and biggest A&Rs already got like on speed dial their pocket and handful of engineers and producers that they and yeah, I think those big companies they got unlimited funding. They're like, yeah, hey, we trust you. We'll make sure we'll take care of you. We'll send you 30 grand for this one mix, bro. One day
Then
I'll get there.
that's when you just sit there and you're just like, and then you finish that record and you just or that no, that song and you just sit there, sit back and you're like, I fucking made it. I did it.
Right?
You know? And
Yeah.
it's I hope you reach that moment one day, dude. I
I
mean, I
appreciate it,
just
bro.
from your insight from talking to you, I can see it. I
I
can see you doing
appreciate
it
that. That means the world, man. Hey, we're all trying to get to the top together, you know? We're all
for
get
sure.
there.
We all are. I think we all have our dreams and aspirations, and I think if you just I think that's what like when I came back to podcasting, I just reflected on how hard I chip away at some things.
Yeah.
And it's just like I think to myself, like, okay, this is the mistake I made last time. I don't want to do that again. And I think collectively, I've been doing so much better.
Hmm.
Like maybe just because I'm coming off a cold streak, I'm not doing it for a good year and a half or so. But it's like I've learned so much about things. I've done so many different things to like indulge myself in different
Right.
categories that I think I'm more insightful than I was, and I wouldn't trade it to go back, I guess you could say.
No, you said it perfectly, bro. And like we were saying earlier, it's like part of that growth period in your life. Like
Right,
everything has to happen the way that it happens for us to be able to look back and to be able to make those 10 steps forward now, you know?
right, for sure. And I honestly, the more I talk to you, I can see it more and more.
Oh, I try, man. I try, bro. I always just try to keep that fire in me. I just try to be ambitious as hell. Like as morbid as it like kind of sounds in all honesty, I always remind myself, I'm like, I'm gonna die one day, you know, and I'll be damned if I didn't give everything my 150 million%, you know?
Exactly. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like I want to make my impact on the world. I want to be
Right.
remembered in every way, in every way, shape, and form.
Right.
And that's how I've kind of grown to be. Because ultimately, at the beginning of the day, like at the end of the day, for me, my dream is always to be able to make an impact on people and be able to make the lives of other people just be able to make an impact to be remembered.
Right,
Even if
exactly.
even if that's like, maybe one day working for a really big band to put on a killer show that, some kid that like 5 or 6 years old could see and they'll remember it for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And knowing that I was a part of that would bring a lot of joy and happiness to me. And the same thing with the podcast.
Yeah.
I have already met like a handful of people that's have told me that like they enjoy listening to my content. And then it's like I'm only getting like 50 to 100 views or something on some of these, and it's when I was doing it, and I'm like in my mind, I'm like I just didn't appreciate it because it was just I didn't understand that was like, oh, I'm like this handful of people are watching it, but then even smaller group of people are like, I love it.
Right.
And
Right.
then
And
one thing even Brett told me was just keep those people at heart and remember that more of those people will appear
uh,
as you keep going.
yeah, 100 said it perfectly. And like one thing that always kind of put me in, like into perspective too, like even when stuff is like really small and everything, and like I'm not a super producer level and anything like that, but like
Right.
you get a couple hundred views on something, you put a couple hundred people in a room, you know what I mean? That's a
Right.
lot
You
of
think
that's a
about it, and that's a lot of freaking people.
yeah. So it's like sometimes it would be like, oh man, this thing only did like 400 or 500 views. But it's like, are you now go to present that in front of actual 500 people,
Would you
you
be able to
know?
actually do that?
Right. Am I up there with piss stained fucking pants? Or
Right? You're like, am I just gonna be, shivering, just like, holy shit, I'm actually doing this. Like, oh my God. And then the reality just hits you. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll be able to do something like that.
hey,
Hopefully.
hey, you
All
will,
of us
bro.
wish that.
Yeah. I
Imagine you're
believe
doing a
you.
TED talk on being an engineer and for music and everything. Like, imagine
Right.
just
Hey, that's
doing
the
TED
goal,
talks or
man.
something.
I would love to do that. Like, love to like get on panels and kind of. I love talking music. I really do. Like, even though I'm around it all day long and everything, like, it's
It's a
just,
passion
it is. It really is. And there's nothing like music, in my opinion, that really unifies just people in general.
for sure.
It's the most universal language there is music.
And that's why I think so many people just come together and relate so hard to some things is
Right.
it's as you just said, it's a universal language.
Mm-hmm. It's
And it's the best thing you could possibly get a part of.
absolutely, man. Like, bro, I have on my Spotify, I have some Italian rappers. I don't speak a single word of Italian, but it gives me a feeling. It makes me feel like empowered, makes me feel good, you know? You don't
Makes you
have
feel
to
something.
understand it. Yeah, feeling. Everything is off of feeling, man. Everything.
Feeling and emotion. That's it.
Right. 100%, bro.
So we've been doing this for nearly 2 hours. So I'm gonna start doing a little bit of a transition to get us a little bit out of here and
Has it been two?
get us. It's nearly been,
Man, whoa. Did not feel like it.
but while we're on the route to closing this out, is there any questions or anything you might have or anything that you might want to talk about real quick?
Kind of like, so what's kind of your background, my man? What's your background with music? Like, I know
My
you said
background?
you played in high school and everything. Like,
I
did you
mean,
start from when you were younger?
I first started playing cello in fifth grade,
Okay.
and I didn't start taking it seriously about eighth grade freshman year because I was just like, oh, it's just an instrument. I'm just enjoying. I'm just learning this. It's a class, and I more viewed it for a while as like an escape from the classroom. Yeah, I'd be in a room with 30 other kids, but
Mhm.
shit, to me, it was enjoying. I was enjoying it.
Right.
No matter how many like times I was scraping my fingers with calluses and shit, it was an escape for me from class, and I loved it. And I mean, that's my primary background. And then as I was going through high school, I was just wanting to just do something music related, but then like I was just getting into like business careers.
Hmm.
I mean, I did my first management job at 16
Oh
for a
man.
fast food restaurant.
Right.
And then I just to this day I'm still in that whole like managing people field at the moment. And I mean that's really what it is. My background in music is cello and I tried learning guitar, didn't go so well, but it just it just
But
branched off as I went
yeah,
to more interests.
were you the only one in your family doing music, or like do you come from like a
Oh no,
musical
my
family?
mom's side of the family was very musically inclined. So
Okay.
me doing an instrument was kind of just like, oh my God, it's following in the family tradition kind of thing.
Right.
Now I try not to think of it like that just because it would ruin the passion for me. But if I thought of it like that personally, but I mean, that's really, but I think music's been in my DNA since I was born, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I just, I have this underlying feeling and just synchronization with music that I've never been able to express to the world.
Mhm.
that I don't know. I also kind of don't know how to express it.
It's
And
yep, I
it's
know
just,
exactly what you mean.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's one of those things that's even hard to kind of put into words.
Yeah, because it's like you don't, I've tried explaining it before, but it's just, it either doesn't come out how I want it to be perceived, or it just, I can't put the right words together.
Yeah. Man, it's like I know you kind of said you came up from like a metal background. This is kind of one of the things I wanted to know like earlier. Like
Sure.
did that start when you were younger? Kind of like middle
So
school
I
or
was
like
a
me or what's
big,
the
like,
deal?
so early middle school, like sixth grade, I got really into Guns N' Roses and AC/DC. I've kind of been into them off and on my entire life.
Bro,
And then
same
I
with
got to
Guns N'
early middle.
Roses.
Yeah, early middle school, I was really into it. And Slash was one of my first inspirations to want to learn guitar. But I mean, I was just so far along with cello after a certain point that I just couldn't get the motivation to learn a new instrument.
Mm,
And I just, seventh grade, I got into Five Finger Death Punch
okay,
and
old
bands
five
like
finger.
that.
Yeah.
And then just going from there, I mean, personally, like between Disturbed, Five Finger Death Punch, Metallica, and bands like that, up until like high school, like that's those like couple bands where all I was listening to. Slipknot was in there as well. And then I met one of my best friends about sophomore year,
Hmm.
still best friends to this day. And I mean, he was one of the reasons that I actually expanded my music tastes, music interests in the rock and metal scene. And ever since then, day by day, I discover someone new.
Yeah.
And I feel so happy and grateful for every artist I discover,
Oh yeah.
because I just think of the beauty of the piece. And then I go into like investigating even who they are, to be like, what is their passion, what's their story, and like what made them want to do this. And that kind of feeds into the podcasting passion a little bit, because it's
Oh,
like
true.
it helps me, interact with those specific people, and then I get to answer the questions that I've been having when I discover somebody,
Right.
which is like, what's your story, what's your background, where's your passion come from, and all that kind of stuff. And I get to get that information out of a casual conversation.
Hey, that's the way, man. I love to hear that. I appreciate you sharing that with me, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no worries. I mean, you asked. I'm an open book to anybody that asks.
Same
I
here,
mean, that's
man.
just
Same.
me. That's just who I am. But yeah, as we're getting to the end of this, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching today or listening. I appreciate anyone that, whenever this gets released, I don't know when. All I know is sometime in October, hopefully.
Hey, we'll keep it rolling.
And just anyone that stuck around this late into it, however long this podcast ends up being, I just want to say I appreciate every single person that's watching this. If you want to check out Keon, his Instagram handle will be under his image on the screen. Same with me. All the stuff down here is where you can find me on Instagram. As I said, his handle will be also under his face as well. And Keon, do you have any positive message or anything you want to share with the world before we close this out?
Yeah, man. Well, first off, bro, Liam, I appreciate you for bringing me on, man. It was an absolute blast talking music, getting to ramble a bit and everything. And anybody listening to it, I appreciate you guys just as dearly. And we just keep on trekking on. Number one thing, man, if there's one thing I want to leave, just it ain't gonna be easy, but I promise, and I promise you, if you keep just chipping away at whatever it is, it will 100% come to fruition. 100%. Full believer. Even when it seems like it's like down and out, you got it. Promise you.
I couldn't have said it any better, my friend. I feel the same exact way. I appreciate your time today. It was an honor to speak to you, and someone that has
Likewise.
such a great musical mind. I This is probably one of going to be up there on one of my favorite podcasts I've done so far, just because of how interactive you were and how much we engaged with each other, and I just loved it so much.
Me
So I just
too,
want to say
brother.
thank
Thank
you
you.
again for your time.
Oh, thank you, bro. I had an absolute blast finally speaking with you. It was great. Hopefully we'll do another one.
Hopefully, sometime in the future, I'll gladly have you back. But with that being said, I hope everyone has a great day, night, afternoon, whatever time it is for you. And this is Liam from the Full Circle Podcast, signing off.